We are back. The club previews are in the past, and we're now looking to each position, starting with the defenders today.
Come on!
Hello and welcome back to Off the Mark, an AFL fantasy podcast. I'm Mason.
And I'm Casey, and here we are doing the defenders of our first of our positional previews. Or petitional, if you will.
Yeah, it should be good. Petitional. Yeah, I had a little mess up at the start there, but it's all good. We can do retakes. I can cut things out, thankfully. So yeah. It's all good. So yeah, basically today we'll just go through kind of all the relevant names, maybe talk some structure things as we go, how our defenses are looking at our teams at the moment, and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully we cover everyone. If we don't, leave us a comment on YouTube or on your podcasting platform that you listen to us on, and maybe we'll do a little episode at the end to try and kind of cover some players that pop up over the next few weeks, because there probably will be some relevant names that come as we see the scratch matches next week, I think, isn't it? Yeah, I think so, yeah. But we've got pretty much everyone from premiums to mid prices to rookies here to go through today. And yeah, it should be good.
Yeah.
Well, should we start up at the very top? And let's go to Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller. And again, we spoke about most of these players before. A lot has probably changed since our club previews. We didn't speak about him too long ago. I don't really like this pick too much, to be honest. Especially with the kind of switching positions, which I know is meant to be good. So he's priced at 110.9, so that's 1.16 million, one of the highest priced players in the game. And I just don't think that in any season I could justify picking someone this expensive who's just about to switch the positions that they scored this in. Now, if there was anyone I could do it with, it is Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller, because he's an elite player, but... So I had some stats here that I got. He averaged 107.1 in the games where he had over 40% CBAs, but it was kind of all over the place. So in that, there's a 73, a 76, and 81 in some CBA games, but then there's also a 131, a 147, and a 151. So it's kind of a range of like 80 points, which especially when you're paying for this guy to be a captain option, I'm not really too happy about. I mean, you imagine you pick him and round one he comes out and scores an 80 or something. Yeah. It just sucks so bad having spent all that cash on him. Obviously the buy as well in round 4, which is the good one as everyone's calling it. But it's still a buy. Plays Collingwood, GWS, Melbourne and Brisbane. So obviously Collingwood won't count, but in terms of his price and all that kind of stuff, it's kind of Melbourne's pretty easy, but Collingwood, GWS, Brisbane are all pretty tough matchups. So for all the people saying that, you won't be able to get him if you don't start with him, I kind of think we will. He won't go down much. I mean, he's still going to be priced high, but I think that there's a spot for us to get him. And if we don't and he sucks, we've avoided him when a lot of people have picked him. What are your thoughts on Messiah?
Yeah, I have Messiah under a maybe. Nasiah. I used to calling him Messiah because of what he did last year. I have him as a maybe, purely because of what you just read out there was the fixture of what they did last year. And I thought to myself, that does seem like a tough fixture. Pies, D's, Giants, Brisbane, in that order, sort of. And then I went back to him last year. He played the D's twice. He goes... a 117 and then a 147. We don't see the D's getting much better this year. I mean, maybe a little bit, but we can't take that down too much. Now, yes, that 147 was the Nasiah game where he came in clutch, but the other game was still a 117.
Yeah, he's not doing that every time.
No chance. But the 117 floor for the D's, I think that's pretty cool. Obviously, that's not a floor for what he scored this week. But then he goes to the Giants, he scored a 90 and a 102. So nothing crazy, especially priced at 110. We don't like that too much. But then we look at the Pies. Last year, he scored a 125. And then the Lions last year, he scored a... Where was it? I had it. 131. So he's played...
Right.
And the 3 of the 4 teams that he plays were some of his highest scores of the year last year. And that's the only reason. Now, I put him under a maybe because there's a few things that have to go right for you to have him in your side. He needs to have an amazing opening round score, which is against the Pies, I think, for you to even start considering it. If he hits 105, that's not even close to enough. He needs to go above and beyond his 110 price stat for you to cover a potential lapse in the round one. The only other thing I need, you cannot have Sheasel and Wanganeen Miller in the same team. So this is two top of the players in their price range. So Wanganeen Miller are the number one price defender, and then Harry Sheasel the number one price forward. Now, after you did that and you talked about your going against Sheasel, I was moving around about it and jumped down to Petrarca with my number one, and there is a lot you can do with that cash. Personally, I don't like it as much. I'm still sticking with Shees, but there is, if you are considering going without him, and you've got Petrarca as your F1, then there's a lot of cash to use. And Wanganeen Miller, we know, has the ceiling scores. And the best part about him was that his floor wasn't particularly low at all. Like, he went sub 100, I think, only 4 times last year, and he's just an absolute gun. So his floor last year was, where was it? It was 86 against the Doggies, and then he hit a 76 against Eagles and a 73 against the Swans. So I can't really remember what happened in that Eagles game, but yeah, that has to be an outlier because it was the easiest team to score against. But yeah, no. So his floor is quite high, which is what we like, and that's the only real thing I have for him though. I said when we did our team previews that he has priced himself out of the game and out of our choosing. Like, priced at 110.9, like that is incredibly high, and I don't think we can really start with that. But maybe because if those things that I said go right, because if he scores a 150 in opening round, which is it very much could happen, you know, starting the game in the midfield against the Pies, who struggled a bit last year and will be looking to do stuff. The Pies don't usually tag; they don't have a natural tagger. Now, Wanganeen Miller didn't really get tagged at all last year. That has got to change. It has to change. He was one of the best players in the comp, and I definitely see that changing. I just don't see it changing with the Pies in opening round. So if he posts a 150 score, then we have to at least consider him, because that is 40 points above what he's priced at. And then if he does even 110, his average, the next round, he still goes up a lot in cash. So something to think about. And that's why I've got him in the maybe and not just a straight out no.
Yeah, I think the thing with his floor is quite high, which is 70s, which is still very, it's 40 points below his average, but I mean, that's about as high a floor as you'll get from any player. It didn't go below 70 all season. But it's just how often he hits that kind of like under a ton. So he hit under a ton 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games out of whatever, how many played? 23. 6 out of 23, which doesn't sound bad at all, but like, it just doesn't excite me as someone that I could pay up for at the very top of the line. And as much as we can say, these floor scores are an outlier, you can also say that the 150s and the 140s are an outlier, and you get rid of both of them, and he just kind of sits around that 90 to 110 mark. And if he sits around 90 to 110 and he's priced at 110, I'm not really willing to go. I just see no world in which he averages more than 110 this year. Like I can't see it.
On average, no, I agree. Yeah.
No, yeah. So I'm not super hot on him. I know that he is getting a little bit of talk now. That people are. I feel like as we go into the preseason further and less options become available through injuries and people, roles are more secure, people start to become more lenient on these buy players and go, oh, yeah, but look at my team if I just have one in there, and then maybe if a rookie scores 70 and then I can get him back and then I don't have to trade him in. And it just, I think we need to stay strong. We need to stay strong with no buys, and Nasira is a good place to stay strong at. And another guy who we can stay strong with no buys is Lockie Whitfield, the second highest priced defender. So he averaged 105.2, price at 110, 1.1 million, sorry. Again, it's just the buy that hurts me. I just can't pick him. If he didn't have the buy, you could argue his value. So obviously averaged 111 in 2023. And then or was that last year that he averaged 111? Maybe I've written it down wrong. He averaged 109 or something last year as well, though. So he's a bit down on form. And I just think that when I looked at his stats last year, it's always a good sign that there's room for upside, but it was kind of only minimally. If you take out his injured scores, because obviously he had that game where he got concussed, and I mean, you could even probably take out the game where he sat forward, but if you just take out the concussion game, and I think he might have one other, his average goes to 109, so up 4 points, which is only 2 points less than the 111 in 2023 that was kind of his ceiling of the past 2 years. Sorry, 2024, last year, the 111. So that's kind of his ceiling that we see him at when he's not injured. I think that buying him at 2 points under his ceiling, being, I don't want to say he's injury prone, but he did get injured last year, and that was like the first couple. The last 3 years is the first time he's put a full season together since pre-COVID. There's just too many factors with Lockie Whitfield, and again, it's just the bye hurts. And I mean, Lockie Ash is a question mark too. I know they both played in the same side and averaged over 100 last year. Whitfield was experimented with forward, which I don't think will happen again. It's still a risk though. I mean, it could happen in a game, which you wouldn't want. But yeah, just paying 105 for this guy with an early buy, even if it's the good one again, like Nasiah, I just don't think you can do it.
Yeah, no, I strongly agree. I also have him as a no, and it's the good buy that we talk about, even though it's only 2 teams. If you're considering, even if you're considering a Nasiah, you can't, obviously you wouldn't have both, but like you've got Flanders in that buy at least, or you should at least have Flanders in that buy. You might have a rookie if a Saints guy pops his head. If Philippou tears the house down in opening round and round 1, it's also someone that I could be considering as well. So I don't like, and this is the same reason for Wanganeen Miller, which I didn't bring up, but I don't like stacking on the buy at all, especially when we're going up the top for primos like Whitfield or Wanganeen Miller or Ash or a couple other guys we'll read out later on. Just not really big on going for the buy guys, even no matter how good they are. But you mentioned Lockie Whitfield's role. I don't worry too much about the role. I can see us having Lockie Whitfield in our team at some point because I reckon he'll be pretty solid and pretty consistent. But I don't really stress about the role too much because they tried him out up forward, they tried him out on the wing, and it didn't work too well for them from a football perspective. So we shouldn't worry too much about that changing from a fantasy perspective, because if it doesn't work for as a team for footy, then there's no point for them to do it. So, yeah, that's what I see for that one.
Yeah, I mean, I just think, especially with both these guys, if you're buying someone at this price, and particularly at their kind of like max price, which I feel these two kind of are, I think you just don't want any risk, even if it is the small chance that Whitfield could go forward or wing in a game. You think of maybe another position in the midfield, like Bailey Smith is not going to play anywhere but the midfield. Jordan Dawson's not going to play anywhere for the midfield. So I'm happy to pay up for those guys. Obviously not Smith because he's got to buy, but someone like Dawson I'm happy to pay up for because I know he's going to play midfield. I know he's going to play the same role he did last year. And even if Nasiah's role could be better in the midfield, even if Whitfield doesn't have the threat of going forward, it's still a risk, I think, because it could happen. It did happen. No one could have predicted it last year. So I just, I'm not willing to risk that at all.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, that's my piece on Whitfield. Anything more to say about Whitfield?
Nah,
or just
no,
no?
Nothing. Yeah, just no. Yeah, I don't have too much to say.
Well, let's go to
our...
Let's go to our first unanimous yes between the two of us. Is Connor Rozee, the third highest price defender. So he averaged 104.2, priced at 1.09 million. I just think he's a lock. Opening fixture of North, Essendon, West Coast, Richmond, St Kilda is just elite. I mean, North are actually not that super easy for defenders, despite unlike other positions, but the Essendon, West Coast, Richmond, St Kilda is great for him. All 5 games, you would assume Port wins, probably.
Yeah, you'd assume, yeah.
Or at least they're close games. They're not going to get blown away at all or anything. The one question I had, and probably for you as a Port supporter, do you think Rozee benefits at all from Bergman moving into the midfield? Like, does the threat of Rozee being moved in the midfield lessen because they're already moving a half-backer into the midfield? Like, do you think it takes someone out of his position and puts them in his like second position that he rests in and he won't have to be there much?
I think from a positional standpoint, yes. I don't think he'll be moving into the midfield too much, or if he does, no more than like 3-4 CBAs a game. From a fantasy perspective, I don't see it impacting him either, because when Bergman moved into the midfield, Rozee didn't get a boost in kick-ins. Rozee had most of the kick-ins when he played down there. He wasn't, I think he was top 3 on the kick-ins for Port over the year because I had this written down. Yeah, he had third most, I think. And when the games that Rozee played down back, he took the kick-ins, even when Bergman was playing down back. So Bergman moving into the midfield doesn't give Rozee access to more points from that aspect, but it also doesn't take much away from him. And positional-wise, if Rozee pops into the midfield, he averaged 103 in the midfield 2 years ago. So it's not something we worry about from a points perspective either. So I think whichever way you look at it, Connor Rozee is a great football player fantasy-wise. So he gets the tackles, he gets the kicks, he gets the handballs, he racks footy, and it doesn't really matter where he plays. We haven't seen him play forward. Oh, actually, no, we have seen him play forward. He drifted forward and he still kicked goals for us.
Yeah, exactly.
early last year, so he still was an impactful fantasy player even went forward. So the bloke's a lock positionally, fantasy wise, whichever way you look at him.
Yeah. And so those numbers he had. So 2023 he had 16 no, where is it? Yeah, 69% CBAs, average 105.9, and in 2024 he had 62% CBAs averaging 97. So he's got no problem scoring in the midfield.
Yeah.
And then obviously the 104.2 average last year with just the 35% CBAs. So even if he does have that, 30 to 40%, he's still going to score well, I think. I've got no issues at all with him. He's just locked into my D1.
Yeah.
Certainly, and I think he should be everyone's.
Yeah.
I think that you're shooting yourself in the foot if you don't, and you're going to miss him. And I wonder if players like this, because I feel like the defense is, I reckon there's 3 locks that you should, maybe 4 that you should have on your field. I wonder if people are going to dodge them just to try and be a bit unique. I mean, of all of them, I think Rose is the one you can't.
Yeah.
Because I think he actually jumps Whitfield in price and possibly Wangan and Miller pretty early with this good run, and then it's going to be pretty hard to get him for the rest of the season, and you're gonna miss out on too many big scores. So if you don't have him, lock him in right now.
Yeah.
But a guy that you probably shouldn't be locking in, this next guy, Dane Zorko, average 101.5, priced 1.06 million. There's just too many factors against him. I'm just red line through him. You can't start him. So he's got the round 2 bye. He's another year older. I think he's probably, 37 this year, maybe, just off the top of my head.
Something like that, yeah.
And then also Fletcher, Wilmot, Coleman. There's 3 halfbacks that they're pretty keen about that are all pretty good players that I think the Lions will want to be using. I wonder if maybe they start to use him less in that distributor role. Maybe they use him up the ground on a wing, on a half forward. I don't know. I mean, it's just too many factors. I didn't even do any research on him because I'm just not interested at all. You just can't pick him.
The only thing I have heard is that, and then once again, preseason whispers, it could be nothing, but we heard whispers of Fletcher playing a little bit more of a midfield role. Maybe not anything like crazy, but a little bit. So there is a little bit time still down back, and but it's Kitty Coleman coming back from that mix. That's the big one. He's not going to be their best halfbacker by any means, but he's not just a random name. Like he's a very diligent football player who will definitely take some footy from Zorko. So. And early buy in one of the bad buy rounds, we can't pick it. Simple as that.
Yeah, agreed. And we'll talk about Coleman a bit later and how that whole backline will work a little bit more in depth. But the next guy who I'm actually kind of keen on is Jack Sinclair. So I know he has a round 4 buy, and I was just poo-pooing picking buy players, but he averaged 103.5. Averaged 100.8 last year, priced at 1.05 million. Averaged 103.5 in games where Nasaya played over 40% CBAs, which is what we assume he's going to do this year. So there could be, 2 or 3 points of upside there, a little bit of meat on the bone, which when you're picking these premiums, you want there to be something that you could confidently say, yeah, I'm getting them slightly underpriced, even if it's a few points. One thing I noticed in his scoring last year is he scores well when he marks. So every game he scored over a ton, he averaged 5.9 marks. But in games where he scored under a ton, he averaged 3.75. So if he's marking a lot, and I wonder if that sometimes means that he's the second option from the kick-in. His kick-in numbers don't really indicate higher or lower scoring. Like when he has more kick-ins, the score isn't higher necessarily. It's kind of random. Neither did Nasai's either. So I wonder if maybe they kind of work together to be like, if Nasai's kicking in, it goes to Sinclair. If Sinclair's kicking in, it goes to Nasai kind of thing. So I wonder if maybe his marks take a dip if he takes an uptick in kick-ins with Nasai gone. But, I mean, that'll just be something we have to watch. Regardless, he hasn't averaged under 100 since 2021, so the last 5 years. The buy's the only thing kind of stopping me. But I definitely like this over Whitfield or Ash, who we'll talk about next, who's also priced the same. If you're going to have one on that round 4 buy, it's him. And he actually does sit in my side as we speak right now. So I'm pretty keen on him, and I'd be more keen if he didn't have the buy. But yeah.
Okay, yeah, nice one. Yeah, I've got him as a maybe. That buy, I'm pretty stubborn on that having that early buy. But Sinclair, I like him a lot more than the other blokes you read out, like your Whitfields, your Ash, your Wanganeen Miller, even because of his consistency. He doesn't. He has the ceiling games as well. Like I can recall 130s, 120s from him over the last 3 years, where he hits those high scores, and his ceiling isn't crazily low. So I do like it. It's just that buy, and I like Rosie. So for me, it's Sinclair or Rosie. I don't see myself having both. I know you have both, as you just said, but
Yeah, okay.
I'm spending my cash currently in the midfield, where I see a bigger upside in my cash on my team. But I couldn't fault you for Sinclair. I'm really bullish that he's going to have another 100, 105 year this year. Just making it 6 in a row. So I couldn't fault you at all. And look, come round one, I might have him in my side. I might not. We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I like him a lot.
And again, it could depend on an opening round score. I mean, for me, as someone who's counting him now, I hope he doesn't score it's just a ton, so that he doesn't, if he scores a 130, everyone's going to pick him. So
yeah.
I kind of hope he goes a little under the radar. But interestingly, he does pick up some CBAs occasionally, but it's usually only 20 to 30%. So the games where he had over 20, round 1 he had 23%, scored a 90. Round 7 he had 28%, scored a 95. Round 10 he had 34%, scored a 139. And round 22 had 26%, scored a 146. So his two highest scores in there were with some CBA time. So I wonder if maybe that dips a little lower with Nasai being the one going in there. But regardless, playing at halfback with 0 CBAs, he's still got a 125 in there, a 134, a 119. Plenty of good scores. His floor is a little low though, 61 and 64, 79, 78. So he can kind of drop those scores on you, but he makes it up with the big scores. And I mean, you just have to look at his record the last 4 years. 102.9, 102.2, 101.9, 100.8. It's elite.
It is lit. I did have a stat from Sinclair. I couldn't find it for last year, 2025, but this 2024 stat, 90% of his CBAs over the year of 2024 came in the last 40 minutes of the match, which is fourth quarter and the last half of the third quarter. And predominantly when St Kilda were behind, trying to find a spark. So we can see St Kilda winning a few more games this year. I think from a footy perspective, I don't think that's crazy to say. They'll probably make the wildcard spot or something like that. I like St Kilda's list this year. So whether they're coming from behind to win more games this year, does that mean, like I said, this is 2024 stat, not a 2025 stat. Does Sinclair still move into the midfield when he does? Because you read the numbers and they're not much lower, but they're still about 5 to 10 points lower than when he plays predominantly halfback on those ones you averaged. So whether that's something to keep in mind, who knows? It's a podcast. We're just throwing everything out we find. So yeah, just something I had.
Looking back at his 2024, he had quite a few. So he had a 24%, 27%, 72, 68, 24, 93, 48, 78, 84. He had quite a few games above 70, and then some more in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. I don't have numbers on when it was, but I would say that if that was the case, then putting him in there at the end, because that was when they kind of needed a bit of a spark, you would surely think that their spark is Nasai this year. I mean, look no further than that Melbourne game last year, and I would not be surprised if they did the same thing last year, but with Nasai instead. I think Sinclair has the room now. I mean, how old is he? He'd be in his 30s. Yeah, 31. I just think it's good for the team to have that reliable, kind of solid, experienced defender back there to kind of, man the guns, boss everyone around, and just be back there for a cheap kick and a mark. And that's exactly what we love as fantasy owners of these types of players. So, similar like a Zorko or something like that. Just the old head back there racking it up. So yeah, I'm pretty keen on him. I think you can pick him despite his buy. But a guy I think it's kind of risky picking with the buy is Lockie Ash. So priced at the same 1.05 million, average 100.1. As I said in our GWS preview, which I had, I just think it's risky picking a guy with a 100 average off a career best year with an early buy. For the same price, again, you can pick Sinclair, who's gone 100 plus for the last 4 years, or you could pick Lockie Ash, a guy who's only done 100 plus in his career best year, which was last year. You're getting him priced at the highest he's ever been. And yes, he's younger. Yes, he's probably got a bit more promise. Again, Whitfield's there as well. Would not be surprised if that affects him this year. Yeah, I'm just saying it's a bit of a meh pick, but I could see us having him at some point during the year. But yeah, again, buy player, just a no.
Yeah, that's what I had with him as well. I had him as a no, I think, or maybe I had him as a no, because it's the same as the buy. And if you were considering any of these buy players, it's the bloke that you just talked about before with Sinclair. Like, it's not can we have an Ash, can we have Sinclair all in the same team kind of thing. You're picking one out of the four being Whitfield, Ash, Sinclair,
Absolutely,
and Nas. So it's really just Sinclair. So I see Ash as a no, and I see Whitfield as a no. And as we've talked about it, I see Wangan and Miller as a no as well. So changing on what I said at the start of the podcast, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think that there's kind of like a lot of people are picking like Bergman, Colby, Newman, Coleman as like the kind of mid prices like below 900k. So I don't think it's the worst idea in the world to have another premium that's not Rosie, because I think that there's no way in the world all four of them work out for you. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do like all four options. I think I've got all four of them as a yes, or at least a meh in our notes here. But yeah, I think that in my structure, I mean, Rosie's obviously there whether I have 6 premiums or not. He's D1. And then I just kind of like to have that other guy just to back him up a little bit there. And I'm happy to cull off. I've had variations of my side with like 5 premium mids in it and cutting cash in the defense and forward. But I am happy to go 2 premiums in the defense. And almost kind of a guns and rookies type approach with the the Colbys and the Bergmans and the Newmans in the middle there. But yeah, not super keen on a lot of these buy guys. Another guy who's a round 2 buy guy is Josh Dacos, averaged 94.2 last year, 988k. We've spoken about enough good defender options, I think, even with the buy, and we'll speak about plenty more. But especially the round 2 buy premiums keyword, we can avoid. Could get some more midfield time this year, I think everyone's heard, but we don't have enough data from him in the midfield. He obviously had that game where he scored 80 something in the last quarter, which was elite, but again, not going to do that every game. But I mean, he can obviously play. I think he'll improve on his average if he goes in the midfield, possibly push 100. But if he doesn't as well, do we expect Houston to improve his average? I think he averaged like 66 or something last year, so surely that goes up. I mean, if I'm doing draft rankings, I'm putting Houston up. So maybe that culls him a little bit. Maybe they give Houston a bit more of a role and it culls him. And if he does move into the mids, where in the pecking order is he? I mean, obviously his brother's over him. You've got other guys like Jack Crisp probably plays more game time in there, and then you've still got guys like Pendlebury, Sidebottom, DeGoey's coming back this year. There's just too many questions to even think about a guy on that round 2 buy. But look, it's not a terrible pick. Looking at their run after their buy, they go GWS and Brisbane first up, but then Fremantle, Carlton, Gold Coast, Hawthorn, Geelong. Essendon, Hawthorn, Geelong. Not bad. So we could pick him up at some point, but I'm just saying no for now.
Yeah, no, same. And like I said, for these no guys, I don't really have much to say other than the fact that Josh Dacos has the buy. And that's enough for me, priced at what he is, 988. When there's so many other guys who are around his price or a little bit higher, a little bit lower that we're considering, I just can't see us picking him. Like, it's as simple as that. Yes, you said it's someone to keep an eye on for after the bye when he's got that little bit of a better run, but to start the season, absolutely not. And that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, well, a guy that doesn't have the buy, and funnily enough, he's the only guy apart from Rosie, he's the first guy apart from Rosie that we've talked about without the buy. Second most expensive without the buy is Christian Salem, averaged 93 last year, priced at 975k. So I was really keen on this pick, as you might have heard in our Melbourne episode. I think I had him in my side all up until about a week ago. He did have a slight preseason injury, so apparently had a hamstring complaint. The media contacted the club and they said it wasn't too serious, but it's just, I think I heard that he was maybe running laps for a match sim or like a game simulation and didn't play it, so that's not great. I mean, a lot of players at his age in their 30s will kind of sit them out. They don't need to do them. They just need to make sure they're fit, but still, just for a guy that I'm getting priced up there, not sure about it, but I cannot deny his value. So as I said in our club previews, he was behind May and Bowie in kick-ins last year. Bowie's obviously injured till the mid-season. And I actually learned the other day, May hasn't been back to training this preseason, or at least recently. He's had some personal issues, not to comment on it, but it is involving the police, so it's somewhat serious, and I could probably see him not playing again. I think Kane Corns came out with an article saying he won't play for Melbourne again. So from a fantasy perspective, that it leaves a lot of kick-ins for Salem. So possibly does he get a bump? How much does it up his average, considering he was probably a guy to get it in those chains from a kick-in? So it's maybe not going to bump his average up too much, but he still gets plenty more kick-ins. More on kick-ins, Rivers has been floated. He's getting midfield time. He was just behind Salem in the kick-ins, and Judd McVie, who was just behind Rivers, is gone. So there's two more with some kick-ins for him. I mean, he's kind of the only guy they've got back there at the moment. I can't name their ins off the top of my head. I know they had a lot, but I don't think they had any more that were kind of half-back types.
Let me just quickly
scroll down to Melbourne. Oh, yeah, CJ probably could get a bit of that kind of ball. Maybe there's some draft picks that I haven't looked too much into that could get that. I mean, they'll have a guy like Xavier Lindsay, who's a bit of a popular option in the midfield that could go there. But yeah, I think I'm just more interested to see how he works out in the preseason games and if he looks good. Unfortunately, we don't get the opening round look at him, but obviously he doesn't have that bye. I don't see myself starting with him at this point just because of that preseason injury. But without that, I absolutely would have. And if, maybe he gets off to a flyer in his first couple where they play St Kilda, Freo, Carlton, Gold Coast, Essendon, which is actually a really good run. I could definitely see myself picking him up at some point if he's some value.
Yeah, I've always had him as a maybe, and it's because of that run and the no buy, the two ticks that I've been looking at for the start of my season this year. And Salem is a pretty under the radar player as far as under the radar goes. Over the last couple of years, he's just been quietly averaging really high scores, high 80s, 90s, and he's been pretty consistent on it too. So someone I certainly like. And you're right with the loss of Judd McVie and Trent Rivers has now got midfield. I do see there being access to a little bit more points. And if what you say with May goes through, or what Kane Corn says with May goes through, then yeah, certainly a little bit of a boost. Maybe not something drastic, but high 90s, even maybe 100, pushing 100. Certainly doable. And yeah, I wouldn't mind picking him up. And it has been in and out of my side as well. Not on the podcast, but yeah, just mucking around with stuff. I do like him because he's priced under $1 million, and he's just solid. So when I was a little bit bullish on Bergman for a little bit, when I thought Horn Francis was all good, but then he's injured. Anyway, I'll talk about that later. I was chucking in a Salem instead of him in my side, but I don't know, bit of a cheaper price for Bergman. I've chosen that, gives me more cash, but certainly no cross on Salem. He's certainly someone we can look at, and a very, very good footballer as well.
Yeah. I think the reason he's gone under the radar a little bit is because of injury. So last year played the 23 games, was his first full season since 2021. Played 17 and 24, 16 and 23, and 13 and 22. So he has been a bit injured. But I mean, at his heights, played 24 games in 2021, averaged 92.9. Played 20 games in 2019, averaged 89.9. So he kind of sits around that 90 to 95 mark, I guess. Obviously, the 93 last year was his career high, actually. So yeah, maybe has gone a bit under the radar. And he's currently 1.9% owned. So if you were looking for a little bit of a point of difference, it's risky, but it really could pay off. I could definitely see him going 100 back there for sure. We've seen a lot of older guys kind of take their claim as an easygoing halfback, not too much contact footy, just racking it up back there. So he could be that guy for sure. But moving on next to Jordan Clark, averaged 90.2 last year, 946k he's priced at. It's an interesting one. I don't know if it's in a good way though. So he was down 6 points on his 2024 season where he averaged 96, which was where a lot of us had him. I know I had him. So in 2025, compared to his 2024 season, he had 0.7 less marks and 0.7 less kicks and 2 less marks. So if we add those back to his 90 that he averaged, he goes up to 98.1, which is a great average, puts him 8 points upside. That's great. But in 2025, he also had 0.2 more handballs, 0.3 more tackles, 4% more time on ground, 18 more kick-ins, and 1 more game than his 96 in 2024, and still averaged 6 points less. So the time on ground's a big one for me. He's getting 90% time on ground as an average. I mean, that's good for anyone playing one game, but as an average across the season, I mean, I think it's commonly known that he just kind of doesn't go to the bench, plays a lot of time on ground. But his points per minute were down last year because of obviously his average being down. It's the thing for me and why I've put him as a meh leaning towards a no is I just can't pinpoint what it is and why he scored 6 points less. The only thing that I can say is Luke Ryan had a down year as well. There's a lot of talk about this Freo game plan and how it was kind of less fantasy friendly last year. Does that, clean up this year? And some of these Freo guys are going to go back to their best. I just think it's a big watch because, again, apart from Rosie and Salem, he's the only non-buy defender we've talked about yet. So could be an interesting one if you were looking for some non-buy player kind of premiums. But yeah, it's a watch for me to how he looks in the preseason.
Yeah, I remember just properly the media slamming Freo and slamming their Luke Ryan and Jordan Clark in their game plan for kicking, kick to kick to kick to kick to kick and losing. Like I remember, and that was probably a big reason of why they shot or stopped or changed, because we didn't see that as much during like the first 3 quarters as much as we did early days of Freo. Like they used to kick it around like it was a hot potato, mate. They were just giving it go and just kicking it with no real. It's like if you watch much soccer, like the people just kick it around the back half, just swing it from side to side to side to side without really making any push up the ground, which got them absolutely pummeled in the media for the game plan, and they changed it very quickly. And since then has been a drop on all of their defenders, not just those two. As you read out, Luke Ryan's dropped and Jordan Clark's dropped, but it was others dropped out as well. But yeah, he's a consideration purely because of the no buy, and that's what we look for. That's what I look for. In players that have proven themselves in the past. Like he's still averaging 90. That's not a dud pick at all. If one of our players flops, if like let's say someone gets injured, like a Bergman or a what's the other guy, McKercher, if one of those guys gets injured, Jordan Clark's he might not, but he might drop a little bit in cash over these first couple games. He's a very good player to pivot to because of his consistency. Like that's why I like him as an option, not necessarily as a starting pick, but someone definitely to monitor and have there because of his consistency. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. Moving on to the next guy, Callum Mills. I didn't have any notes on him. I'm just saying no. I just don't want to do it.
No,
not too keen
I'm
on
the
him.
same.
Anything to say on him?
Yeah, I had a little bit of a look into Callum Mills. The problem with Callum Mills is his not game time, the amount of games he gets. He hasn't put together a full proper season since 2022. And back when he did, he played 22 games, at an average of 111. Since then, he's gone 19 games in 2023, with a bit of an injury worry at the end of the season. 6 games in 2024, averaging a 69, and then only the 12 games last year where he averaged up to 90. So if he can get his game time up, this is a bloke who went back-to-back 110 years. He went in 2021 and 2022, went 110 and then 111. So he's a proven scorer, a known scorer. When he came in last year, he stole Matt Roberts' fantasy points like that, like they were nothing. And that's the reason Matt Roberts dropped. That's the reason Riley Bice dropped, because they want the ball in Mills's hands. He's not still the captain, is he? No, I don't think. I think he might still be the captain.
I don't know.
I'm not a massive
I did see
Swans
something
dude.
about him not being captain.
Yeah, I'm not a massive Swans dude, but he might not be the captain. He's still one of their veterans. He's still one of the known ball handlers, and they'll want the ball in his hands. Maybe not as much as we see some of these other younger guys like Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller. He won't have the impact he does, but they'll still want the ball in his hands. He's still a cool, calm, collected head who has been a proven scorer in fantasy, but also been a proven player in the past. But once again, Swans have that early buy, and it's just the consistency that I haven't seen from Millsy. So if he can string together a healthy season, good on him. We might target him later on, mid-year maybe. But until we see some consistent game time without those injury woes and without those floor scores, then he's not an option for me.
Yeah. Just reading here about him, he did have a minor hamstring strain before Christmas, but apparently he's come back in the new year and trained quite well. And they reckon he is going to play in defence, with Isaac Heaney playing more midfield time because Kerno's in the forward line. So he has stood out a bit, but yeah, it's just a no from me. Too many risks. And also the early buy. So yeah, big no. Next guy, Archie Roberts. I've heard his name pop up a bit, but I'm just saying no. Average 85.2, price at 901k. It was his season career best year. I don't see him doing that again. And if he does, he stays the same. And we don't really want an 80s guy on our side, I guess. So I'm saying no on him.
Yeah, you say career best year. He's only played 2 seasons, and 2024 he's played 4 games and also scored an 85 average. So
yeah,
he has the ceiling score. Like last year he hit 120, he hit 113, but his floor is way too low, and he consistently hits like those 70s to 60s scores. Like he's hitting 50s, 60s, and 70s at way too regular. So I'm not even going to consider him and not give him the time of day really to speak on this really highly acclaimed podcast. So
yeah,
that's
exactly. That. Yeah. Next guy, again, didn't really write much about him, but I wouldn't say I'm keen on him, but I think you can pick him. It's Tom McCarthy, average 83.5, priced at 876. I've heard him getting a little more love in the last week or two. Because obviously the talk is that with the West Coast scoring, he's not going to score as much as another midfielder, but I think that he could provide some upside. I could see him going 90 in the midfield, but again, it's a little bit like Nasaya, where it's like, yeah, he had a great season last year, but now he's changing positions. Do I want to risk that either going down or up? You know, am I willing to? Because that's the thing. Is a halfbacker going in the midfield really an upgrade? Some players play better in the midfield. Some play better at halfback. So I think I'm willing to wait and see. But I think if you have him in your opening side, as a bit of an upgrade from some of those kind of underpriced premiums like McKercher or Bergman, I don't think I could fault you. I think you can pick him. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same. Obviously, we haven't seen him play a full season of footy ever. He was picked up last year in the mid-season draft. I mean, his first game at proper footy level, 31 disposals, 6 marks, scoring 101. West Coast's first ton for the season. So we definitely know he can score. He priced up 383k, and there's now a defender mid rookie, like not fantasy wise, but like player wise, position wise. He plays that defense. He plays that midfield end. It's interesting to see what he'll be like as a midfielder. We didn't get too much of a gauge of him last year. He popped in every now and then, not enough for me to draw stats on, at least. But it is West Coast will do a fair bit of moving around their positions, maybe not consistently, but at least trialing things and trialing new ways to deal with their players, because they've got a fair few players coming back into the side. Like Elliot Yeo is a lock for a midfield, or is he? Do we move him out to the wing? We don't know. Dev Robinson coming in, what sort of role is he going to play? Tom McCarthy, what role does he move to? Where do you fit the number 1 draft pick Willem Drew in? All that sort of stuff. And you got another few draft picks Willem Dersma, not Willem Drew. Yeah.
Unless it was a trade I didn't hear about.
God, I hope not. But wouldn't that be something? Yeah, so Willem Dersma, where do you fit him in? And all that sort of stuff. So it'll be just interesting to see what they do in their trial games, which I know I'll be watching at least come the next week, I suppose. But for now, I'm putting him on the watch list, on the watch for sure.
Yeah, he's just kind of... You can pick him, but I'm not super keen. I'd rather wait and watch for him. But a guy I'm really not keen on is Trent Rivers. Average 2.3 last year, priced at 865k. So there's a bit of talk about him getting CBAs, but he actually averaged 3 points less, so 79.5, when he had over 30% CBAs last year, which was 8 games. So regardless of where he plays, I don't think he goes over 85, and I just think this is not a good pick at all. Anything to add to that?
Look, not really. I haven't really looked into him much. I suppose Trent Rivers is a name moving in. I mean, did you have him at any point last year? I remember you at least talked about him last year.
He was in my preseason team a lot because of that midfield time, and he was kind of priced. I think he was priced a little bit lower on last year's salary cap than, like, I think he was like 800k or maybe high 700s. But yeah, didn't make it in my final side, and thank God, because he didn't end up being a good pick anyways.
Yeah, it was not the pick, and that's what I'm worried about with Rivers. Like, I'd rather be saying thank God than look, Trent Rivers has done all right. What a shame no one else picked him. It's not going to be the risk reward factor isn't there, so no need. Yeah,
exactly. Him going well is like 90, which is 8 points upside to what he's priced at. So yeah, it seems like the same story we've heard before. We're not picking him, but now we go into a stretch of guys that at least I'm pretty keen on. Sam Banks is up first. So he last year averaged 79.5, priced at 831k. You can do this if you're not keen on Bergman and the role of that kind of mid forward, which we'll talk about later. So in the 4 games he had over 4 kick-ins, he averaged 102.5. And when he had 1 or less kick-in, he averaged 61.1, so a lot less. And he was only second to Vlastuin in kick-ins. I think that continues, but he seemed to kind of take that halfback role, and I think he runs with it even more this season. I spoke pretty highly of him in our preseason club preview for Richmond, and a lot of people are speaking pretty highly of him as kind of a bit of a pod. I'll just quickly check his ownership if you have anything to say on Banksy.
Yeah, I was looking at Banksy a little bit. Looking at his last year, it's consistency that worries me. So he scored 20s, he scored 50s, he scored 60s, he also scored 70s, and he also scored those 110, 120 game. So he's up and down. Last year was his breakout season. The year before he only averaged 49 or something like that in an injured season. So it's new, but what the question I have for you is, what do you see his floor to ceiling ratio like over the first couple rounds? Let's just go from for opening round one, which is against the Blues, to round five. So they go the Blues,
Yeah.
Blues, Gold Coast, Freo, Port Adelaide, GWS. What do you see his up and down being like for those?
I mean, I could see him averaging maybe 80s, like maybe a couple games over a ton, and then a couple of 70s and 80s. I reckon it's nothing too special, but nothing too much below his average. I think he's I don't see too much upside. I think he's pretty much priced at where he'll be. And the thing is, with these poorer sides like Richmond or an Essendon or West Coast, the halfbacks are not. Yeah, like McCarthy had a great year off halfback and still only scored, 86, 83. So it's just the kind of waxing time at the end of a game where you're winning is not there for these clubs, which is why we love the halfback roles of like a Zorko or an Asaya, because there's plenty of time to wax back there, and I just don't see it for Banks. So I think he can do it. I think that he could provide value, go 85 to possibly 90, but I don't have him in my side at the moment.
Yeah, I don't either. 3 of the 5 games, so Carlton and Freo here scored 64, 65 last year. Port Adelaide scored the 25. The Gold Coast Suns, only scored a 70, and then Giants was 87, and that's the highest that he did against those 5 teams. He scored tons in games against other teams. So if we're looking at a bloke who we're balancing ceiling versus floor, over those first 5 games, I don't see it happening, at least on average. So I'm happy to skip over him in my positional decision, I suppose. Yeah.
Agreed. So next we go to Colby McKercher, who's just the lock of all locks, it seems. Averaged 78.5 last year, priced at 823k. So obviously played a bit of wing time. It looks like after the round 12 bye was when he moved back to the halfback line. He averaged 5.6 kick-ins for the rest of the year. And from there, from round 13 onwards, he averaged 94.6 and only had 2 out of the 12 scores below his average of 78. So that means obviously 10 out of 12 scores above his average. I could see him going 90 for the full year. I could see him going 95 for the full year. You got to remember as well, he's a young player. He's only going to get better from here, from a progression standpoint, as well as the boost he gets from hopefully not playing wing time and playing halfback. I mean, there's talks that he could get a bit of midfield time. I don't think that's the end of the world for him. I think he could still score, around that 85 to 90 mark in the midfield. I just think you got to lock him in. If you miss this and you miss the value that's there, other people are just going to leapfrog you in the rankings. It's too much of a big one to miss for me.
Yeah, I agree. And it's not something I really noticed until about 10 minutes ago when I was just scrolling through my notes. And I don't have any notes on Colby McKercher. That is also a good thing and a bad thing. A good thing in the sense that he's that much of a lock that he's just in my side. A bad thing in the sense of that I really should be doing more research in players and not just blindly following the pack. Now, Colby McKercher is a lock. I'm not going anything against saying that. But if you go against him, there's going to be a lot of blokes like what I've just done who just hear everything of what's being said and you don't do your own research and you just, lock him in, whoop, yep. So if he goes swimmingly, he's going to be one of the most highly owned players. You can't miss it. And there is so much upside. You're right. Price at 78, his upside is insane. And their run isn't even that bad. Yes, they're North Melbourne, but they play the D's, the Bombers, and Port Adelaide's a bit of a tougher one, but they have an alright run to start the season. So Colby's getting in my side. Simple as that.
Port, West Coast, Essendon, Carlton. So it's a really good run.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think you got to lock him in, and that there is the argument that you can, you don't have to pick a unique player to go unique. You can go against a popular player to go unique. But a player that I think that you could, I've put him as a yes, but I think you could go against Miles Bergman, who's our next up, 78.2. He averaged 822k. So I'm not going to go as far as saying it's a meh pick, but he's far from the lock that I felt he was a couple weeks ago. He was like the, midfield time, price below 80, should go 90, bang, in my side. I actually don't have him in my side currently. He's the guy who made way for Sinclair. So the talk is that he plays midfield but rests at half forward. That's a concern. So if he was resting at half back where he's averaged 78, that's all right. Goes 90 to 95 in the midfield and then rests back where he averages, 80. That's fine. So in the games where he had over 50% CBAs last year, 6 games, he averaged 103.6. And in games where he had 0 to 50% CBAs, he averaged 63.5. So my concern is those like lower, like 20 to 30% CBAs, where he's playing like less than half CBAs, which I don't think will happen. If they're pipping him as a midfield, he's going to play more than 50%, which is where that 103 average comes in. And that's great. I think if he plays kind of half and half, like 50 and 50, it's a bit of a trap. I'd rather see a 60-40 or a 70-30. Now, of course, those stats where he's playing less than 50% CBAs are him resting at half back. I assume so. I don't think he played any half forward last year, did he?
No, not at all.
So yeah, I mean, that's him resting a halfback. Imagine those numbers if he was resting forward. Maybe there's a couple goals in there, but I just see halfback as a friendlier role for him. But yeah, that 103.6 average of his 6 games with CBAs last year is great. Even if he just averages 90, which if he plays the right role, I could absolutely see him doing. And if you miss it and he does average 90, it sets you back so far. But if you don't, like if you miss it and he kind of just goes 80, it's so huge because then everyone not only has a dud pick, but has to waste a trade getting him out as well. So I don't know. It's you kind of got to sit on the line and like it's a risky pick if you don't, especially with Port's early run. I mean, there's a lot of things going for him to the point where talking about it now, probably should have him in my side just to go with the pack. So Colby was 49% owned, and Bergman, I'll just quickly search up, where's the burger? 24% owned, so still highly owned. There's a lot of teams that'll be incomplete and stuff, so it's of serious people, it's probably about 50% owned. I think I just want to see CBAs all of the preseason. I don't want to see him under 80% CBAs, and I know we don't really get the numbers for a lot of the scratch match stuff, but I want to see him in there. I want to see what he can do in the midfield. And even then, if he did, I would still be skeptical because there's just every chance that at any random point they could go, you know what, this is not really working, and move him back. But I think he's still a good pick.
Yeah, I haven't heard the noise of the resting a half forward. I haven't heard that, so I'll have to do a little bit of digging, see where you found that, and I'll have a look at that as well. For me, when he rests, they move him back to half back as a lockdown defender, which is what he's played, which is where he hasn't scored the greatest when he plays defense. As you had your stats under 50% of CBAs, he has the 63 as opposed to the 103. But then again, that's 50% of CBAs. I see this bloke being solely midfield, switching in and out with the halfback for not long stints at all at a time. I reckon he'll average 75% CBAs for the year easily. And when 75 is in your over 50% CBAs stat they had, which he averaged 103 in. So yes, he rested half back. He could rest half forward. It doesn't really matter because the spike in CBAs will be significantly more than what it was. I see the average going up to more so of a 90, high 90 kind of guy. I see the average sitting there. Doesn't really matter where he rests because the CBAs are so much higher. If you see the logic in that, you see what I mean. So
yeah,
and that's just digging off of your above 50% CBA stat. Because yes, players rest. They'll go on the bench. They'll go to different positions. They're not out of the game, and we see that with Horn Francis. He makes the most of going up forward. Miles Bergman is an incredible intercept marker. If he moves forward, it's not the end of the world. He's still going to take marks, I reckon. So, but yeah, I reckon the CBAs are definitely a big spike, and depending on where he rests, is the difference in 5 to 10 points tops.
Yeah,
top side, and
yeah,
I'm more so 5 to 3, I reckon. So,
my probably main worry with him, I mean, the resting is not great, but it's all right. Most players rest in a position. It's the what if, and you'll know more about this than me, what if Port just go, look, this is not working, let's just go back to what we were doing. Games where he had no CBAs, rounds 2 to 4, he 86, 104, 113, great, but then rounds 5 to, rounds 5 to 8, he had 52, 33, 43, 55. That stings so bad. Then he had a nice run of CBAs, 82%, 36%, 56%, 60%, 61%, 112, 79, 88, 104, 102, great. Then he had one game with 11%, scored a 52. We can put that aside. 89% for a 120, 31% for a 64, 25% for a 78, 83% for a 93, and then 19% for a 39. It literally is he scores well when he gets CBAs and more than 50% CBAs. So I just need to see that roll before I pick him. I think that.
Yeah.
And again, he's probably gone down the last couple of weeks. I don't think he should be 20% owned. But I think he's a good pick. I think you can pick him.
I was going to say the last thing I'll say to that is when you were reading out those low score CBA, so those low percent CBA games that still had the high score, especially at the start of the season, it was against the Tigers, it was against the Bombers, it was against the Saints. Then you went down a little bit further and you went the higher. So Port's run is the other thing. It's the last thing that I can possibly think of is Port's run is elite. It's one of the best runs in the league. They go North, Essendon, West Coast, Richmond, St Kilda. Even if he doesn't have those CB games, he plays low. He plays down back, or even if he plays up forward, it's a kind of game where everybody eats. You're averaging 10 points higher. I reckon that's it. It would be an interesting stat to see how players on a whole averaged against teams like Richmond and West Coast, because they were the most scored. They gave up the most points, which means you'd think that teams or players would average more against them. It would make sense. So playing West Coast, Essendon, Richmond, North Melbourne, St Kilda, they were literally the bottom 5 teams last year, I think.
I think they probably were.
Yeah, they quite literally. Me. They literally played the bottom 5 teams of last year, which you're of course going to average a higher score on what your average is going to be. So that 5-game period is going to be higher than your yearly period. Simple as that. So that's the last and final thing I'll have with Bergman is that even if he doesn't have those high CBA games, even if he doesn't have those the perfect role we want, and they switch him back, we say, hey, this isn't working, I still think over those 5 games, that's enough of a time to not even waste a trade. You just have a bloke that you're just moving on after the buys, after his good run, which we would do at any point throughout the season anyway. Yeah. So that's how I see it with Bergman. That's the last thing. Yeah.
He could be the perfect guy to move on to any of the buy guys we've talked about, and there's plenty of them to upgrade from these defender targets. So it's where someone like a Newman and Coleman, who we'll talk about in just a sec, come in. But just quickly, and I know that you've seen this on the notes, and I like to imagine that you kind of gawked at this player and why I've put him in there, but I just want to mention him. Kane Farrell. Now, I put this here. I wonder if Bergman leaving the back line leaves some points to Farrell. I know Rosie's back there and he's the main guy, but Farrell being the second kind of halfback, and he's a good player, maybe not fantasy player, but a good player, a rebounding halfback. I wonder if it just leaves a little bit of upside for him. So then I did the research. He only averaged 77.8, so pretty much the same as his average of 78, when Bergman played over 50% of CBAs. So the answer to my question is no. But he averaged 81.7 when Rosie played over 50% of CBAs. Averaged 85.7 in rounds 18 to 24. So he can average well. If he went 85, it's not the end of the world. But averaged 69.7 between rounds 3 to 17, and there were some games that he missed in there. So that's a 12-game sample size. So in the end, I just thought of him while I was writing my notes. It's a no, but I just wanted to mention him because he would be super unique. But I just think the fact that he hasn't put together a good season is why I'm not picking him. Yeah.
That's the thing. It's not that he hasn't put a necessarily good season together. It's the fact that he doesn't have the ceiling. So his highest score last year was 114. And he went above 100 3 times. The rest of the time he is scoring between 60 and 80 consistently. So a bloke that doesn't have the ceiling, he's very consistent. He's actually my favourite player on Port from a footy perspective. He's been my favourite player for the last couple of years. I love the bloke, don't get me wrong, but fantasy wise, it's consistent, but you look at his so I've got him since 2018. He's averaged between 40 and 50 4 years in a row. Then he averaged 60 and 60. Then he averaged 78, 78. So if he's anything if not consistent in that average of scoring. So he doesn't have that ceiling even against the good teams. He scored a 114 against the Tigers, who we do play, but then North he scored a 62, Essendon he scored a 74, and then St Kilda he scored an 88. So it's nothing that jumps out at me. When I speak about everyone eats, he does eat, but it's just in a different way. He's not getting as many kick-ins as well in those games because there's not many kick-ins to be had because the ball won't be down there as much, kind of thing. Yeah. So that's how I see it.
Yeah. Purely thought of him while writing my notes and saw him going down the defender list and thought, maybe he will get a bit of a kick. But I think I'm a no. So let's get into some mid prices. That's kind of premiums and underpriced premiums we've gone through there. But the true mid pricer and the pick of the backline, I think, is Nick Newman. Obviously had an injury, 0 average last year, priced at 753k, which I think is about 72. I think despite the round 2 bye, you got to have him. He could make a lot of money in the first couple of weeks. So I did some maths, and DFS actually has a good page on their website where you can put in what you think a player will score over the first 3 rounds, like each game, and it'll tell you how much price they'll go up, because it's confusing to try and calculate it with break-evens and stuff. So I did some maths. If he scores 2 blank scores against Sydney and Richmond, which are his first 2 games, so if he scores 2 80s at the round 2 bye when we're picking him up afterwards, he'll be 758. So 5k more than he is now. If he scores 2 90s, he'll be 779k. 2 100s, he'll be 800k. All the way up to 2 130s, he'll be 864k. So even if he does score 2 130s, he'll only go up about 100k. Now, that isn't if he averages that. That's if he scores 2 130s, because his break even changes. Like if he scores better against Sydney than Richmond, which I don't see happening, his break even will obviously go lower after the Sydney game, and then he'll go up more for scoring well against Richmond. So if he went 80 against Sydney and 120 against Richmond, he goes to 790k, as opposed to both games being 100 being 800k. It's a confusing thing, but it makes sense in my head. Once you've researched it, it'll make sense. It's hard to explain. So I think you could pick him. You could probably wait for him. I think I've been a little bit more convinced after doing that and seeing some of it. You could wait, but I just think that even if he does score 2 120s and goes up about 100k, you're also missing 2 120s from a guy who was priced at 72. Which if you're using your starting cash for that, it's amazing. I think, what else did I write about him? Yeah, missing 50k and probably a ton against Richmond in round 1 is terrible. I'd rather take the cash. I'd rather the Richmond score. I'd rather not have to use a trade to get him in. I'd rather not have to... I'd rather have to have a rookie score in his place. Hopefully a 60 plus, although I don't really like thinking of buy players as that, if he averages 80 and then I get a rookie to score 60, it's a 75 average. It's but I'm saying you pick him. I think he's my number 1 lock, number 2 lock behind Rosie in the defense.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've got him. It's as simple as that. Do you see him going under 100 in these first 2 games?
The Sydney game I could. It's his first game back in a year. Sydney are a tough opponent at the SCG too, but there's no way he goes under 110 against Richmond. I mean, that's just the best game for him to kind of... I mean, the Sydney game's still a game, but it's like his first proper game back in front of his home crowd. Kind of just gets to wax in the back line. Back to, he's kind of had his warm-up game. I could see him going like 150, which, maybe that's pretty thinking, but still, I could see it happening.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm pretty sure he was the highest scoring defender in 2024. Like, he's an elite player.
Yeah, it might have been,
He's a bloke that's got that known scoring, that known ceiling, that known consistency, priced at 753. You do it twice without thinking. It's as simple as that. And you pick him over other blokes with the bite instantly. So I got nothing more to add. You topped it off.
Well, just quickly before we get to the other guy that you could possibly pick with that round 2 bye, I just put CJ in here, average 53.6, priced at 563. I just don't think we're shopping in this range. It's too risky. I think he improves his average to a 60 maybe, but he'd have to go 80 for this to be a good pick, and I don't think he does. So we're not picking him. But onto Kitty Coleman, who's the other kind of alternative to Nick Newman. So he averaged 73, priced at 559. So let's play that price game again. So priced at 559, if he goes 2 80s, he'll go up to 606k, 2 90s, he'll go to 628k, 200s, 649k, all the way up to 120, 2 120s, he'll go 692k. So 2 100 sees him go up about 100k. Now that's so much better than Newman. Same buy. You spend less on your opening team, which is good. You can use that cash somewhere else. But Newman has such a higher ceiling. I think he'll certainly score more than Kitty over the first 2 games, possibly by quite a high margin. Kitty has Bulldogs and then Sydney. Did you just get an AFL.com notification?
No, I didn't. I don't have notifications on because I'm doing the podcast.
No.
Probably missed it.
There's a big injury that I've just seen. Wait, hold on.
Okay.
And you're not going to
Fantasy relevant?
particularly.
I did. Oh, no. Oh, I did just get it. Alright, sorry video. It's that was only the 10-second one, so not the worst. But yeah, read it out for me. I can't see it.
Well, I just saw Power Ruck ruptures ACL, so I don't know if that's Jordan Sweet, but I would assume so.
Probably, most likely.
Oh, well, I'll search it up. It'll be on the internet in 5 minutes. So we'll finish talking about Kitty Coleman, and then we'll have a look. So yeah. Newman has a higher ceiling. He'll score more than Kitty over the first 2 games for sure. Kitty has the Bulldogs and then Sydney away. Both are tough matchups. We're still unsure of the role and how it works, like we spoke before with Zorko about Fletcher Wilmot and him and Zorko. So yeah, I'm more leaning towards Newman. I don't think you can have both with the same bye. And Gold Coast had the round 3 bye, so Ezekiel we're probably playing him a D6, but he could cover one of them. But yeah, I think that Kitty's a guy that you wait and see on the roll. You get to see 2 games, you get 1 game of prices of scoring, where I don't think he's going to hurt you too much. Maybe a 90 or 100 is the highest he goes. And then if you like the role, you can pick him up on it.
Yeah, I have him as a maybe. Achilles at that opening round. I didn't like him because he and Newman share the same bye. But do you still have Sam Walsh in your team?
I don't still have Sam Walsh in my team. Okay. No, I don't. Yeah, I don't think I do. I think I took him out.
Okay, all good. I was just thinking, because we've got such a surplus of rookie defenders this year, who we'll get to next. I'm not entirely wiping it out having both Kitty and Newman, but it's based exclusively on their opening round score. I need to see a high score. I'm talking like 105 plus from Kitty. 100 plus from Kitty to put him in my side, as well as Newman, because we're going to assume Newman has a good opening round score against the Swans, like high 90s, maybe 90, high 90, and then going against the Tigers in the next round. I reckon that's just nothing but upside. Kitty's got a bit of a harder run, but if he scores that, I'm not completely ruling out having both of them. And I know that goes against absolutely everything I've been saying on the podcasts throughout the last couple of months, but I'll stick true to my word a little bit. I have said premiums, but buy players in general, I'm not a big fan of, and I highly doubt I'll have both. It's the forcing your hand kind of thing, which if, let's say, they both hit 110s, then 90% of Australia will have them both. So it's not crazy news that I'm dropping on everybody. It's like, it's something that could happen. I'm not completely wiping it off. So here's a maybe. But yeah.
All right, so you can breathe a slight sigh of relief. It's still bad news, but it's Ivan Soldo who's done his ACL, not Jordan Sweet. Obviously, the AFL.com is trying to clickbait me. Power blow, ruptured ACL for Ruckman. Obviously, I'm going to think of Jordan Sweet, but it is Ivan Soldo, which sucks for him. But yeah, so just to clarify, you'll hear this tomorrow when everyone knows about it anyway. But anyways, we are at about an hour and almost 10 now. So let's quickly go through some of these rookies. I don't know if you had too many notes, but just chime in when you need to.
I was going to say real quick, instead of going through them all, most people know about most of these rookies. Did you want to rank them?
Yeah, we could rank them. I reckon I could do that. So
I feel like first that's a good spot. Yeah.
I think I'd go Hewlin first. He'll trained with the Suns last preseason. He'll take fear in his wing position, so I put him at number 1. Number 2, probably Jacob Farrow. So he's drawn comparisons to Hayden Young and Jordan Dawson, bigger bodied halfback. Essendon's halfbacks have scored great for us, so I think he's definitely in there. He should play round 1. Definitely number 2, I think. And then number 3, I'll put Lockie Blackiston there, although he's definitely a player for the first few rounds because when Brian comes back in, he'll be out. But yeah, has a neutral run, 27, 203 centimetres. They're picking him over Vicentini. I think that's all we need to hear. So I'll put him at number 3. I'll put Sam Grill at number 4. Models his game on Zach Butters and Nick Dacos. Came second in the time trial at the draft combine, ninth in the 20-metre sprint. He's a speedy halfback. He's played midfield time. Jaden Short himself said that he should debut at round 1. Pick 8. I mean, there's not much more you need to hear at that. So I'll put him at number 4. I probably should put Josh Lindsay at number 5. He should be a good pick. I'm going to put Jai Sarong at pick 6. I have him in my side currently. So no games last year, but averaged 89.3 for the Box Hill Hawks in the VFL. He should slot into the backline at Sydney. People at the club are pretty keen on him. He's 22. He's rookie price, ready to play. He's in my side if he plays round 0, especially if he scores a high score. And then I'll put Josh Gibbs at number 7. So he averaged 40 in his debut year before hamstring injuries ruled him out 23, ACL in 24, and left him on the sidelines until the very last game of last year. Yeezy spoke earlier today, actually on Monday, about how well he's training, how exciting it is to have him possibly playing, and that he should be playing as soon as round 1. He's 22, so like Jai Sarong, ready-made experience, not a young kid coming straight into the system. He's basement priced at 230k. It's just the injury risk, so that's the only thing. And then I'll put Bo Allen there at number 8, just because I had to get his name in here for you. But yeah, that's how I'd rank him.
Yeah.
I think. Any thoughts on any of those guys?
No, I'm surprised at that. I'm actually extremely similar. I thought you would put Sarong over Lindsay. I like Lindsay's job security in the side. The Swans are pretty solid. Jai Sarong, it's an if he plays thing, so that's why I have Lindsay above him.
Yeah.
One thing that I'd recommend, as this is a defender preview, positional preview, the utility spot, I think we need to use as a defender rookie, because they've got the best rookie line without a doubt. So you're looking at your, even if we're comparing them to others, so I've got Blackiston and Yuland both on field currently. Then I've got Farrow and Lindsay on my bench. It was Lindsay and Sarong, but I've just switched to Farrow. I like his upside a lot better. And I might switch between Lindsay and Sarong, we'll see. But then I've got Sam Grill as my utility as well. So I just think we need like blokes like your Grill and your Farrow compared to other rookies around the other positions. I think that the defenders where we've got some of the best rookies. So I would recommend using that utility spot on a defender rookie. And the best part about it is that like blokes like Farah and Grill are both dual position players. So are Yuland, they're both defender mid, I think.
Well, I have Grill in my midfield bench. You've got that flexibility
to use as well. Yeah, right. Oh, perfect. Even better. Yeah.
So then I've got all of those. I've got Blackiston, Yuland on field, Sarong and Lindsay on my defender bench. I've got Farah in my utility spot, and then Grill on my mid bench. So I've got all of those guys there that I spoke about, except for Bo Allen and Gibcus, so the 2 basement price guys, or just about. I think this is the year we're paying up for rookies. I think you just have to do it. There's too many good options that are higher priced, and I think that you should be setting your side out like that, trying to make a good side with the high price rookies. And if you have to go down, it just means you have more cash. I mean, I've got all those high price guys, and with my side finished, which I'll reveal my other lines in our other videos and podcasts, I've got 246 remaining. So I've got plenty of room to play around with those rookies. But yeah, that's how the defenders sit, I think. Anything else to say? I'm all done.
Solid. No, that's me too. Yeah, just the thing with using all the defender rookies, because we've got no rookie shortage at all this year, and then most of them are in the defence. So chuck them in your sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
There we go.
Well, with any luck, mucking around with your fantasy side, and unlike Ivan Solder's ACL, that you've been on the mark.
Not off the mark. And we'll be back on Friday to preview the midfielders and go through everything there. See you then.
See you later.